so much, Chancellor Christ. We so appreciate you being with us today. As was mentioned before, my name is Lisa Garcia Bedoya. I'm Vice Provost for Graduate Studies and Dean of the Graduate Division. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to our Graduate Diversity Admissions Fair. We are so pleased that you are taking the time to learn about the process of preparing for and applying to graduate school and meet with faculty and staff in your program of interest. And for those of you who don't know what a Vice Provost for Graduate Studies does, I certainly did not know when I was an undergraduate. My job is to take care of the almost 13,000 graduate students on our campus and to make certain not only that they have a high quality educational experience, but also that they are able to thrive and be successful and well while they are at Berkeley. I actually began my academic career here at Berkeley as an undergraduate. It was this campus that made me even be able to imagine an academic career. My parents were Cuban refugees. I have no academics in my family. I'm still not entirely certain what made me think this was the path for me, but I applied to graduate school as you all are doing now. And I ended up enrolling in a program at Yale University and had a pretty difficult time in graduate school. Felt that not only were there very few people like me in the entire Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, but that in my department, my lived experience and the knowledge that I brought based on that lived experience couldn't be present in the classroom. And because of that experience, I left graduate school deeply committed to ensuring that no student would have the same kind of experience as I did when they went to graduate school. And that is why I was so honored and privileged to have the opportunity to take on this role at Berkeley, and why I have made diversity and improving campus climate core to my mission as Vice Provost for Graduate Studies, and making sure that all students on this campus have the resources they need as graduate students, not just in terms of money, but in terms of support, relationships, access to programming, everything that they need in order to thrive. And I think we have made great progress over the past few years. There's a tremendous amount of work to be done, but you'll be hearing from Dr. Street and others the different kinds of programming and support we have put in place to support students here at Berkeley. I thank you for considering Berkeley for graduate school. I really appreciate that, especially for some of you, it's very late. For others, it's very early, but that you're here and participating. I appreciate that. And we are going to do our best to make sure that you find having participated both helpful and enjoyable. Our hope is that this will help you see the full range of resources available for graduate students at Berkeley and the many opportunities that this incredible university has to offer its graduate students. I would suggest that you be certain to take advantage of any resources there are on your campus to support graduate study, ask questions, talk to people, find out about different programs, because it is really important that you not only find a place that will serve you intellectually, but one that will really help you grow and develop as a person. And so I hope you look forward to your participation today. We are here to answer any questions that you might have. And even after today's events, we're available to help you navigate this process, which I appreciate can be anxiety provoking, and hopefully help you land in the place that's best for you. So best wishes, good morning, and go Bears.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia Bedoya, so much. Next, we'll introduce you to the phenomenal resources we have on campus to ensure that we have as diverse a graduate population as possible. And I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you to the Office for Graduate Diversity, who is responsible for this week's event. Within the office, I serve as the director of the Office for Graduate Diversity, and I'm joined by my two colleagues, Patrick Narango, who's the director of the American Indian Graduate Program, and Jessica Mina Flores, who is the undocumented graduate student specialist. Before we get into much about the office, I want to encourage you to utilize our app for this fair, through which you can see our over 70 sessions this week. And I encourage you, even if a program is not what you're particularly interested in, but you have some free time, feel free to join that program just to learn more about what we offer, hear more from our faculty and our graduate students, so that you get a full, well-rounded picture of what it's like to be a graduate student at UC Berkeley. So I encourage you to join us for as many sessions as possible, particularly those plenary sessions, which are meant to help you as an applicant to one of our many programs. And feel free to interact with our students, our faculty, and Jessica, Patrick, and myself as we work in the next few months to get you, for those who are applying this semester, to get you in the best shape to apply to our graduate programs. And with that, I'll introduce you to Jessica Mena Flores, and she will talk to you about our undocumented graduate students program. Jessica.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Mena Flores. I use she and ella pronouns within my role as undocumented graduate. Within my role, I support undocumented graduate students as the undocumented graduate student specialist housed under the Office for Graduate Diversity. For context, we define undocumented as individuals in the U.S. with no lawful immigration status, some who have either overstayed the terms of their visa status and remain in the U.S. without authorization or enter the U.S. without inspection. Within my role, I support undocumented students financially, emotionally, and professionally by providing initiatives to create space and uplift the undocumented community. To highlight a few of our initiatives, we partner with our undocumented students programs, mental health therapists, and have created wellness circles to hold space for vulnerability and authentic connection around the challenges of being an undocumented graduate student. The community also appreciates our Undocu monthly dinners. This is a community dinner for undocu grads only, and where students get to share a meal together and connect with other undocumented graduate students outside of their programs. Last spring, we also were able to launch a writing working group and check-in groups, a space for students to build community and support each other in their writing. And lastly, as we're continuing to host independent contract workshops to empower students with practical tools to launch an entrepreneurial venture and create their own professional opportunities, regardless of students' field of study or immigration status. And the last thing on the next slide, I'd like to share with you all. I have an invitation to share with folks who identify as undocumented students to join us for an informational session on Monday, October 25th, on how to navigate UC Berkeley's graduate application as an undocumented student. And I can share the registration link on the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And next we have Patrick Naranjo, who is our director of the American Indian Graduate Program, who will begin to tell you about his work with our students, and he'll begin with a land acknowledgement.
My name is Patrick Naranjo. I'm a tribal member from Santa Clara Pueblo. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the director of the American Indian Graduate Program. One thing I also want to mention is that I'm very much a resource available for you during this time. So any questions that you may have about diversity, American Indian programming, or the graduate division, please contact me at pnaranjo@berkeley.edu or aigp@berkeley.edu. So to enhance the graduate student experience at UC Berkeley, the American Indian Graduate Program will provide direct assistance to incoming and prospective Indigenous Native American students with necessary information and resources regarding access to graduate level research. This effort will be facilitated within a direct service capacity and will utilize current UC Berkeley campus resources and campus programs so that you don't feel alone navigating the Berkeley College experience. Under the guidance of the Office for Graduate Diversity, AIGP will foster relationships and a sense of community for our graduate student population. As a part of UC Berkeley's mission to foster academic excellence through diversity, the American Indian Graduate Program seeks through outreach, individual recruitment, and student services to remove perceived barriers which prevent the full participation of American Indian and Alaska Native Indigenous students participating in graduate level research at UC Berkeley. The role of the AIGP program is to reinforce intersectional student development and infrastructure by highlighting and celebrating, excuse me, could we go back? By highlighting and celebrating Indigenous applications within graduate level research to ensure full student participation. This effort is demonstrated by providing mentorship and reinforcement by coordinating and facilitating specific campus resources and individuals so that American Indian graduate students can realize their full academic potential here at UC Berkeley. Next slide, please. The current initiative of the AIGP program is to directly enhance the graduate student experience for Native students in all colleges and schools in order to transform the intellectual atmosphere here at Berkeley. This will provide greater educational opportunities for Native students nationally and will create significant cultural and economic impacts on behalf of the American Indian Graduate Program. Our efforts will visibly centralize graduate level resources and departments to enhance student navigation and further community development for Native American individuals and their home communities. We will develop appropriate recruitment outreach strategies and efforts to create increased critical mass, particularly in fields central to growing Berkeley graduate level research, and sustain Native American economic and cultural life. AIGP will work with UC graduate programs to develop ongoing workshops, training, and other program initiatives to foster excellence in mentoring for leadership on all levels of educational engagement and diversity. Our efforts will increase the number of Native graduate students to be proportionate with UC Berkeley's growth in the diverse graduate student body and identify and seek financial resources for growing the Native American student population. AIGP reinforces appropriate recruitment outreach strategies designed to increase critical mass at Berkeley within various international, Indigenous, national, tribal, and UC California statewide systems, and also non-federally recognized entities. This recruitment outreach model will serve as an ongoing application within the AIGP program, particularly providing visibility towards existing fields in academia, is central to growing Berkeley graduate level research, and better support Indigenous scholarship and topics that can sustain Native American economies and cultural epistemologies. Next slide, please. AIGP provides graduate students access to a series of Native American career leadership resources, seminars, and programming that will promote professional mentorship, which will include faculty, fellow graduate students, and Native American professionals engaged in careers or specific research topics here at UC Berkeley. Next slide, please. The American Indian Graduate Program has fostered a new approach towards Berkeley research that can integrate diverse ways of knowing and inclusion of Indigenous methodologies and concepts of tribal stewardship within the Academy that are aligned with professional and career goals. One of the events that we are most excited to host on October 28th is with the Career Center to remove barriers for Native graduate students considering the academic job search. One of the roles of AIGP is to better facilitate tribal worldviews and student experience, right, with the professionally centered approach so that our Native students can revisit their home communities and still be very much a part of their Berkeley research within their tribally inclined Indigenous forms of research. Very excited for this event. Like I mentioned, I'm a resource that's available for you during this time. So please contact me with any questions that you may have. And welcome to UC Berkeley.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And Patrick's work is so important to us because we recognize that UC Berkeley sits on the territory of the Huichin, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people, the successors of the historic and sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. This land was and continues to be of great importance to the Ohlone tribe and other familial descendants of the Verona Band. We recognize that every member of the Berkeley community has benefited and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1868. Consistent with our values of community and diversity, we have a responsibility to acknowledge and make visible the university's relationship to Native peoples, and hence why AIGP is so critical a part of our Office for Graduate Diversity. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold the University of California, Berkeley more accountable to the needs of American Indian and Indigenous peoples. So we thank Patrick for his work and the work of our many Native students in making UC Berkeley a better version of itself. Next, I want to take you through the programs that are offered by the Office for Graduate Diversity. And feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we'll get to the questions with enough time at the end to answer those questions. The first program I want to tell you about is our STEM FYI program. Our STEM FYI program is designed for first-year students in our STEM disciplines, and they support graduate students of color, women, first-gen, LGBTQ+, and our undocumented students in STEM. Each of the students in the program receive mentorship and advice from advanced graduate student ambassadors. Through STEM FYI, we put on workshops, social hours, mental health activities, and professional development workshops as well. The ambassadors and participants in the program are involved with outreach, and both with prospective students outside of the university and working with our undergraduate students. Additionally, through the generous funding provided by the PPG Foundation, we are able to provide participants in the program with grants to attend conferences, get equipment that is important to their research, as well as to adjust to the ravages of the pandemic. So that's the STEM FYI program, FYI First Year Initiative. Another program that we're pretty excited about is our Path to the Professoriate program, which is designed for first-year doctoral students as a way to help them demystify the PhD. This year, we have 104 students who have registered to be part of this program. And because the program is so large, what we do offer is that those students are then divided into small groups, and each group is led by an advanced doctoral student who then serves to bring these small groups together in a social way to connect, discuss research, etc. This program meets bi-weekly, so twice a month we meet. We meet online and also in person. So that's the Path to the Professoriate program. So if you're applying to one of our doctoral programs, this program will be available to you to just help you understand what is this thing that you signed up for. How do you navigate between being an applicant, actually arriving on campus, and then plotting your trajectory through becoming a faculty member, or in some cases, you may decide to work in industry. So I invite you to read more on our website about the Path to the Professoriate program. Additionally, there are two important initiatives that our office oversees for prospective students like yourself. The first one is our Pipeline to Graduate School Bootcamp. If for some reason you're not applying to graduate school this year, this program happens in the spring semester. It's 5 intense 2-hour sessions that takes you through each part of the graduate school application. And I'm certain we have some bootcamp attendees joining us today. So feel free. The application for those sessions will open on February 1st. If you are a second or third year undergraduate or someone who may be taking some time off before you apply to a graduate program, this bootcamp is for you. So feel free to join our website beginning in February to register for this program. As a registrant to the admissions fair, we'll also send you an email once that application is open, so that you can feel free to join us for the bootcamp. More excitingly, if you are a second year or third year undergraduate student for whom you need some research experience, we're happy to announce that we're going to have an Inclusive Excellence Summer Research Experience next summer of 2022. The PPG Foundation is sponsoring our Summer Scholars Program, which is meant for students interested in STEM. In addition to that, we'll be bringing students interested in social sciences and humanities for 8 weeks during the summer, a paid summer research experience. Applications for the summer research experience open on December 1st and close on February 28th. And you see it's open to current sophomore or junior students. So if you're in the second or third year of college, or you know someone who is in their second or third year of college, please encourage them to apply to our summer research experience program. And we will also communicate the opening of that application via email to all of the admissions fairs applicants. Another great program you should all be aware of is our Diversity and Community Fellows Program. If you were to go to our website currently under Diversity and you were to click on Contact OGD, you would see a list of all of our fellows. We currently have 21 fellows, and each of those fellows on their blurb on our website, you would be able to make an appointment with one of them. As a prospective students, you're all welcome to talk to one of our fellows. They all have 2 hours of office hours each week, and they come from different parts of campus. So just from the screenshot, you see the 2 fellows that are on the screen. Alexander is a PhD student in mechanical engineering, and Marino Baca, who is really active with Patrick in the American Indian Graduate Program. He's a master's of public health student. And you can go through the biographies of each of the 21 students, and you can find a student who is closely fitted to your interests, whether you're a law student, whether you're going to be a prospective master's student, you're a geography PhD student. There's someone who can answer questions about applying to Berkeley. In many of our plenary sessions this week, you will also get an opportunity to meet some of those students. So feel free to schedule an appointment with them and talk to them about applying to graduate school. In addition to the Office for Graduate Diversity, our campus has significant resources available to students who, for whatever reason, may think or know that they are minoritized in graduate education. So I'll talk to you a bit about a couple of those. We have a basic needs center which provides support for students who, for whatever reason, may need additional support, whether it's providing housing assistance and or actual basic needs assistance. We have a graduate wellness center where you can speak with one of our colleagues who is connected to our counseling and psychological services, who can guide you through just being a better student and overcoming any challenges you may face. This semester, we also launched a new program with our peer support providers, which are 5 graduate students from our educational psychology program who act as wayfinders for graduate students to navigate the sometimes complex offerings of getting psychological and or wellness assistance on campus. So those students act as peers who can help you navigate the system of both basic needs and wellness. We also have a Gender Equity Resource Center, or GENEC, that works with our LGBTQ plus students in finding meaning and belonging on our campus. Additionally, we have 4 sort of ethnic-based centers: our African American Student Development Program, our Asian Pacific American Student Development Program, our Chicanx, Latinx Student Development, and our Native American Student Development, which this semester has a new home on campus. So we encourage you to look into those resources as well. And before we open up for questions, so if you had questions, now would be the time to put them in the chat. Just a reminder, if you joined us after we started, that if you follow us on Twitter at grad_diversity, and you would tweet an image or statement about this week's fair using the hashtag Berkeley Grad Diversity, the 10 individuals who have the most likes and or shares during this week, who are based in the USA, because that's where our mailing services will allow us to mail this package to, will receive a package of Berkeley swag. So you can rep us on your campus or in your communities. And hopefully this brings some good luck in the application process. So with that said, we'll take some questions. And let me just. So the first question we have is for Patrick, and we have a question: do you need to be Native American to be in the AIGP program?
Absolutely not. One of the things that I mentioned is the intersectional approach towards indigeneity, right? And I say that because we want all folks to feel included. And, you know, when we revisit American Indian identity, things like mascot imagery and membership, if you will, within these communities, intersectional approach helps us to unpack some of these identities, if you will, or some of these things that comprise the Indigenous view. And so no, the answer is you do not need to be Native American Indigenous to be involved with the AIGP program. We're here for all students.
Thanks, Patrick. Any other questions? And I should apologize for the technical difficulties we had at the beginning of this session with the Chancellor's address. We discovered that her office signed on simultaneously so that we were getting feedback from another room at another computer. So we were able to resolve that. Any other questions? I'm putting in the chat a link to our diversity viewbook, which will help you navigate UC Berkeley. It can become overwhelming. So what the staff in my office have done is condensed all of the resources on campus into one location with applicable links, so that you can navigate, make it a little easier for you to navigate our campus as you try to make sense of all of our diversity offerings. So I put in the chat the link to our diversity viewbook.
Denzel, I see a few questions. One that I think you can answer. Is it preferable to have one's research interest clearly defined before applying to a doctoral program?
That's a good question. And I would say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that you want to know the general direction, because as you think about graduate school, you want to ensure that there's a great match between the faculty that you're going to be working with and your general interests. And no, because part of being a graduate student is the discovery of content, new reading, new explorations in terms of what is the future of your field. And so that research interest that you come in with, sometimes in most cases, it will evolve. So you would find that your research may look a little bit different by the time you're working on your dissertation than when you entered. So you want to be as clear about the sort of pathway that you're taking to get that link between the faculty you're going to be working with, but open enough that you're open to future directions that may come about as you explore your topic further. So that's a great question. And I encourage you all to be part of one of the many programs happening this week, because you'll hear from faculty, right? You'll hear from them, what are they looking for in prospective students? You'll hear the type of research being done in the program and department. So that will give you a good sense of what would be applicable as you choose Berkeley. So great question.
There's another question about whether students who are applying a PhD should contact a professor or lab before applying if they're conducting research.
That's another good question. In an ideal world, you would contact a faculty member and you'd hear back from them, right? But as you can imagine, there are going to be many other students like yourself who are reaching out to our faculty members. I say you should still reach out to them. In some cases, you're going to get a response. In other cases, the faculty may just be so overwhelmed that it's practically impossible to respond to every prospective student. And that's why we have our diversity fellows available, so that you can talk to them about choosing Berkeley, about their specific fields. You should also feel free to reach out to graduate students in the program that you are interested in applying to. And one of the things we'll make available to some of you following this admissions fair this week is an ability for you to connect with graduate students in your program. And we'll email you about the details of how to make an appointment with one of those students so that they can help you with the application process.
There's a question about research programs available for graduating undergrads who may be taking a gap year. I know that's something we may be addressing in an upcoming plenary session.
Yes. So we'll talk about in today's session, actually at 12 o'clock, taking a gap year and some of the things you should be doing. One of the things I'm working on with some of our faculty is creating a post-bac program here at UC Berkeley. We don't currently have one, but if for some reason you are applying to a doctoral program, you should be looking for post-baccalaureate programs. They exist throughout universities across the USA. You can pursue them in STEM fields, which are more popular, of course, in terms of giving that research experience, but there are some others that are in humanities and social sciences. So come back to us in a couple of years, we'll have a post-bac program ourselves, but you should be looking into post-bac programs if, for example, you think you needed additional research, and the way post-bac programs are generally structured, you would spend a year or two doing research in your field. You would get paid as though you were a graduate student. So you get a stipend. You could, in some cases, take graduate level courses, and then you become even more prepared for your PhD program at the end of that post-bac experience. So look into post-baccalaureate programs, and I'll type that out so that you know the correct spelling.
And there's an additional question, and maybe Jessica can answer it, but it's asking about support to former undocumented students who were deported or departed voluntarily and are applying from their native countries to resume their studies. Talking about difficulty in applying for visa entry.
Thank you, Kathleen. We do have support from our undocumented student programs. We do have legal support services for students who do have specific questions in regards to supporting folks who need additional support with returning to the US. That's more specifically. I would advise maybe contacting our legal services, and they can direct folks to appropriate legal support as well.
Thanks,
Thank
Jessica.
you.
Mhm.
Any other questions, Kathleen? Do you see any?
Yeah, someone's asking about an interdisciplinary PhD program and kind of finding the correct program for their field of study or interest area if they're kind of if their interests fall maybe between two disciplines.
So generally, students have some freedom in taking courses that would supplement their main research. You'd apply to one of our many doctoral programs, and then you're free to engage with coursework and or working with faculty members across the campus. As you can imagine, there are students who may be in one program, but it intersects with another. For example, sociology and law, sociology and data science, or any of the combinations you could think about. So students work pretty conveniently with our faculty to get the support they need from an academic perspective to navigate their program. And now, Kathleen, I have found the Q&A, so I'm seeing all of the questions. A student asked about, I'm assuming, spring semester visits. Our plan is, should travel be allowed, that if you are admitted, your programs are gonna have visit days so that you can visit our campus and get to see the campus and meet our faculty and students. Alongside those visit days, we typically would have a diversity day where you can engage with our office, meet some of our fellows, engage with workshops and tours and discussions. So we're going to have our diversity day both virtually and in person, should public health measures allow in-person travel. Summer research program will be conducted on campus, we hope. In summer 2022, travel will be allowed and our campus will be fully reopened for visitors, so that we anticipate participants in the summer research program to be on campus for 8 weeks with us, doing research, getting prepared to apply to graduate school, and touring the Bay Area. Details about deadlines for the specific programs are contained on our admissions website. As you can imagine, with over 100 programs, those deadlines differ by program. So I encourage you to find out those deadlines ahead of time. If you're applying to a doctoral program, a graduate program this semester for admission in fall of 2022, I would highly encourage you to open an application today. Opening an application just requires you to set up a username and password, but I advise you to do that because you at least be able to see what are the requirements for the particular program that you're applying to. So today, if you can, please start an application. It's going to be your best way to know what the requirements are. In most cases, our programs have no longer required a GRE for admissions. So you would also discover whether GRE is required. We still have 13 programs that require a GRE, so it's going to be important, you know, if the your program is one of those 13. So the best way to do that is to start an application today. It costs you nothing, and you should feel free to start one today. Elizabeth has a great question about our disabled student development program, and you'd hear more about that later this week when our students talk about being a PhD or master's student from minoritized background. Our disabilities support program, we are putting a lot more attention to graduate students with disabilities. So there's some new vigor on campus in providing resources for those students. I see a question about LGBTQIA students navigating our application, especially with pronouns. I encourage you to start our application. Our application is pretty inclusive, both in the usage of pronouns as well as preferred names. So feel free to start an application, and should you, for whatever reason, encounter any difficulty, you can reach out to our admissions team. They're really great at resolving any concerns, but I think we have as inclusive an application as one can have. And I encourage you to start the application. There's a question about resources for older doctoral students. Yes, one, we encourage you to apply. This semester, this cohort of students who enter Berkeley, our current oldest graduate student is 72 years old, right? So we range from those fresh out of college to those who are exploring this academic interest later on in life. So there are literally no boundaries that would prevent you from being a graduate student here at UC Berkeley. There's a question about whether there's any platform where prospective students can interact with current graduate students in their respective programs. I would encourage you first to double check our diversity fellows who are sort of being paid by our office to provide this resource. So you can make an appointment with them just to chat about their experiences. Similarly, you can reach out to your program directors at UC Berkeley. You should look for the Graduate Student Administrative Officer, or GSAO. They can connect you with current students in the program that you are applying to. And next week, we'll also email you about other opportunities to connect with our graduate students.
Could I just jump in quickly, Denzel, because there were a few questions asking whether you can apply to 2 programs at once, and the answer is no. That's against policy on campus. You have to choose one program and apply to that.
Perfect. Thanks, Lisa. And my screen is split, so I didn't realize Lisa is still with us. So if you have questions for the dean, you should ask him now. We have just about 1 minute. And I see a question about, can you apply to the PhD directly after your bachelor's? The answer is yes. And you should join us for a session today at 12, where we talk about the route to the PhD, right? Should you take a gap year? Should you do a master's first? Should you come directly from undergraduate? So we'll discuss that today at 12.
There were also a few questions from international students about fee waivers. So you are eligible for fee waiver based on program participation. So if you're participating in the programs listed in the fee waiver page, then you are eligible. We do not have a socioeconomic status fee waiver for international students.
I see a sort of logistical question. How much time should we take to put a PhD application together? I would say you should have already started. And if you have not started, start today by opening an application. And it depends, right? You need letters of recommendation, etc. So the earlier you start, the better you are. And coming in November, we'll also have a bunch of workshops that are virtual that you can get some sort of polishing advice on how to really make your application as good as it can be and to hit submit. So we'll have some workshops for you coming in November just to get you over the finish line in applying to graduate school. And with that, I see we have 10:01. There's going to be a ton of opportunities this week for you to engage with us. At each of our plenary sessions, we'll have graduate students who were in your position a few years ago, and they can help you navigate this process. So look out for those sessions every day this week at 12 noon Pacific. And feel free to please join one of our information sessions for the programs you're interested in and or things you may only tangentially be interested in or you may not know about during this week. The programs that are 2 hours long that we call boot camps, they're sort of uniquely designed to help to demystify what it means to get an MBA, to apply to one of those engineering programs to biostatistics, because you technically can come to those programs from different academic backgrounds, right? So feel free to sit in a couple boot camps, sit in an information session. You can't go wrong in selecting multiple. And with that, I thank you. We'll get to answer all of the questions and we'll get them back to you at some point this week. If not, stay in touch, reach out to us by email, by Twitter, by any means necessary. And thank you for joining us in this morning's session. See you throughout the week, and go Bears.